ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांशम्। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम्। श्रीराधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानो सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Friday and Saturday series on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Srila Rupa Goswami, Rupa Śikṣā. Yesterday we began this series, and as I discussed yesterday that it is important for us to discuss the life and history of Srila Rupa Goswami. And we just had a overview sense of what we will be learning in this series of seminars. Firstly, the life and history of Srila Rupa Goswami. Then we'll actually go into the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 9, where Rupa Śikṣā is there, verse by verse, Prabhupada purports and the important concepts. At the same time, we will be doing some comparative study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Only few of the important concepts of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, wherever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is quoting. And then we began with the life history of Rupa Goswami. What is the role? What is the role of Srila Rupa Goswami in Mahaprabhu's pastimes? How Rupa Goswami is giving us eternal service to the divine couple through his composition of Bhakti Shastra, Bhakti Rasa Shastras, so that we can become free from Jadaras. And he has come to fulfill the innermost desire of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam, which is a verse composed in Prema Bhakti Chandrika by Narottam Das Thakur. Kavi Karnapur glorifies Rupa Goswami, Priye Swarupe, Daita Swarupe, Prema Swarupe, Nijanurupe. Very beautiful verse. And then we went into his place of birth, Balka Chandra Dweep, how he was born there, and then his childhood education, Amar and Santosh, how they were attracted, how they were able to attract everyone to Harikatha, and that important story how the Nawab got these two brothers in his service. The famous story how when he was building a minar, the architect boasted himself and Nawab pushed him, finished him, and then the soldiers went out to search what to do, because the Nawab just said, "Well, go Balka Chandrapuri, Balka Chandra Dweep." And how Amar and Santosh satisfied the generals and sent the architects back, and the Nawab was very impressed. He summoned both Amar and Santosh and immediately embraced them as brothers and immediately gave them the post, Sakar Malik and Dabir Khas. One was the secretary, another was the finance minister, I think. Secretary and finance minister. Let me check. Dabir Khas, yes. Yeah, state secretary and then the chief secretary, chief minister. That was the post. The both were given. Now, it is important to know why did Rūpa and Sanatan accept these posts under a Muslim ruler? Although they were eternal associates, they were Brahmanas. They did so because they knew that right now, by Krishna's arrangement, the Nawab Hussain, a Muslim ruler, is ruling this continent, this part of the country. And if they would not agree to do this service for him, as such, the Muslims were creating terror for the Hindus. They were looting the temples, they were harassing the villagers, they were kidnapping the beautiful women. So, in one sense, by taking up these posts, they were able to satisfy the king. At the same time, they saw that they could influence the king so that the dharma, activities of dharma would go on. So this is the next point of discussion in our today's session, that Rūpa and Sanatan, when they got employed under Nawab Hussain Shah, they requested him that they open a temple here. They open a temple so that Hindu dharma can be propagated. At the same time, they requested from the state treasurer a monthly stipend should be given to the Brahmanas who can come here and do Ved Suti. Every day they ask for a stipend also. So the king was extremely pleased by the management of the affairs of the kingdom under Amar and Santosh. So he immediately agreed, whatever you want to desire, please do so, as long as you are taking care of my kingdom, and I am free to go and conquer the other countries. So Amar and Santosh created a temple right in the capital of Nawab Hussain Shah. And they invited the Brahmanas who were doing everyday japa and tapa. You can do japa and tapa. The Muslim king also understood that if he does all this, it is good for his kingdom. So in that way, they had satisfied the king by proper administration, and the king allowed it. So Srila Rūpa and Sanatan Goswami actually created Gupta Vrindavan at Ramkeli. And they manifested the temples of Govinda, Gopinath and Madan Mohan in Ramkeli. And also Shamkund and Radhakund and Rūpa. So this is the picture of Shamkund and Radhakund, which was manifested by Rūpa and Sanatan in Ramkeli. Similarly, in the birthplace of Narottam Das Thakur in Kheturi in Bangladesh, at the backside of his house are two ponds, and they are Radhakund and Shamkund. So every day in the capital, there was Harikatha, Kirtan, and the limbs of bhakti practice for the people. Because the people in the state were practicing the limb bhakti, they were satisfied, and the people respected the king. They paid taxes to the king and they obeyed the laws. In that sense, the king was very happy with the praja because ultimately they were surrendered to Amar and Santosh. The praja was surrendered to Amar and Santosh. In that sense, we yesterday quoted that king is respected in his own country, whereas the Brahman is respected everywhere. Swadesha Pujita Raja Vidwan Sarvatra Pujava. So in his own state, the king was respected because through Rūpa and Sanatan, they were able to propagate dharma and they happily gave taxes and obeyed the king. In this way, they served under Nawab for 20 years. Can you imagine? Two eternal associates from Golok Vrindavan serving under a Muslim king. What kind of a test Krishna sometimes puts to his pure eternal associates in order to, later on glorify them by doing wonderful work through them. So this is how for 20 years Rūpa and Sanatan served under Nawab Hussain Shah. And we see also in the life of many devotees who have gone through a very hard way in their life, struggled very hard way, and then later on, when they take up to devotion, they take it up very seriously, and they know and they can do wonderful things for the moment. So similarly, Rūpa and Sanatan served under Nawab for 20 years under a very difficult situation, and they did wonderful work for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Recently, I met a devotee. He's an Indian who was working in Afghanistan. And I asked him, he's an engineer, what is his job? He said, he has to deactivate the mines. Mines means the bombs, which are, they are laid in the ground. Very highly paid job, highly paid job, highly risky job. In this kind of a circumstances, he was, doing his job there and practicing spiritual life. And now he has made enough money by working few years there, and he's fully settled. He need not work, and is full time now devoted, looking after a Goshala project. So that is why when we work for many years in tough times, Krishna can manifest and do wonders to that devotee, and similarly he did for Rūpa and Sanatan. Now, the meeting of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with Rūpa and Sanatan at Ramkeli. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after delivering Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, after taking the blessings of all the Vaishnavas and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. In fact, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was not ready to give permission to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to Vrindavan, to South India, in fact, also. But after he got the blessings and permissions, when Mahaprabhu his first attempt was, after taking sannyas, immediately he wanted to go to Vrindavan, but he ended up in Shantipur and then went to Jagannath Puri. But again, when he attempted this time to Vrindavan, he did not go to Vrindavan, but he went to Ramgiri. And there he met Rūpa and Sanatan. So this pastime is very, very interesting and it is very moving. And we will be that time as part of the life and history of Srila Rupa Goswami. We will go verse by verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita 2:19 from 1 to 12 and 31 to 60. So this pastime we will go quite in detail when we go through the verse by verse discussion. After this is how Sanatana Goswami escapes. Rupa Goswami leaves from Vrindavan and the Nawab arrests Sanatana Goswami. So how Sanatana Goswami escapes from the prison is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 19th chapter verses 13 to 30. So we will go verse by verse when we discuss that part of Sanatana Goswami. That is also a very important pastime. There are very deep lessons in that pastime. So we will that time study that. There is also one part which I am not going to discuss about the life and history of Rupa Goswami, which is more narrated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Antileela, where Rupa Goswami visits Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, and he spends almost 10 months. And very intimate, loving exchanges between the Lord's pure devotees, the Goswami, Haridas Thakur, Ramanand Rai, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happened there. And there, how Mahaprabhu, or how Rupa Goswami reveals the inner mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is quite elaborately discussed. That is a long discussion, so I want to avoid it. And in essence, when Mahaprabhu was there dancing in the Rath Yatra, he was reciting a particular verse of how the lover is meeting the beloved, or the beloved, singing some love songs to the lover. And nobody could understand why is Mahaprabhu singing this love song. Only Sarup Damodar understood the inner meaning and heart of Mahaprabhu. Rupa Goswami also understood that. And Rupa Goswami composed a similar verse. Sorry, there was the internet, there was some problem. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu slapped him in anger out of love. How could you understand my heart? Then Haridas Thakur said, it is because you have destroyed your mercy for him. And very beautiful discussions happen about the poetic compositions of Rupa Goswami in that assembly. Ramanand Rai and Rupa Goswami have a very deep compositions of Rupa Goswami, that assembly really much enter into those deeper mysteries. Because the compositions of Lalit Madhav and Vidat Madhav have been discussed there. So that is there in the Antileela. And there the glories of Rupa Goswami are further discussed also. But I'm avoiding that discussion. I'm going by the flow. Sanatana Goswami how he escapes is there in the Madhya Leela. We will that time discuss that. Then Rupa Goswami meeting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag. Mahaprabhu visits Vrindavan. Just a second, there is a problem in the internet. Yeah. Mahaprabhu visits Vrindavan, and while returning, he is at Prayag, and by the time Rupa Goswami also has left, and then he meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How there is some problem with the internet connection. Let us see. I'm trying to set it right. Yeah. The connection is, yes. Okay. So the meeting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami in Prayag, again we will discuss from the Madhya Leela, chapter 19, 31 to 60. In fact, most of Leela, this chapter, is how Rūpa and Sanatana meet Mahaprabhu, how Rupa Goswami meets Mahaprabhu, and major portion is also Vallabha Bhatta and his meeting with Mahaprabhu, his visiting Vallabha Bhatta's house. The second last portion only Śikṣā and Mahaprabhu blessing Rupa Goswami. But we will go through all the verses because there are some important lessons to be learned in these pastimes. So that time we will go through it. Now, continue with the discussion of Rupa Goswami's pastimes. Rupa Goswami's summit of separation, what he experienced. So there is an interesting pastime once Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was narrating the pastimes of separation from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, of the Gopi separation from Krishna. And all the assembled devotees hearing this wonderful narration, they were weeping in ecstasy. Practically the ground was wet with tears. But Rupa Goswami was just still there. He was motionless. And some of the devotees were wondering, all the assembled devotees are weeping uncontrollably, but Rupa Goswami is motionless. They could not understand. One of the Vaishnavas just took a cotton swab and placed it near the nose of Rupa Goswami. And there was no change. After a long time, the cotton swab just burned. And it is said there is a fire of heat of separation. It melts the heart, and with the melting of the heart, there is a stream of tears which flow. But a deeper separation is when the fire is so deep in the heart that it remains in the heart, locked in the heart, and it dries the heart completely. And the blazing fire of separation is deeply locked in the heart. This was what Rupa Goswami is experiencing when he was hearing Raghunath Bhatta Goswami's narration. And that is why Rupa Goswami was completely motionless. So the separation is hidden externally, but internally there is a blazing fire which is going on. So this was the kind of separation what Rupa Goswami was experiencing. It is said that as long as one doesn't feel this kind of a vira, separation from Krishna, one cannot perfect his bhajan. We have been separated from Krishna from millions and millions of years. The jiva has cut his connection from Krishna, and as long as the jiva doesn't feel this kind of a separation, his bhajan cannot fructify. Sometimes the child, when he is separated from the parents, even for a few hours, if he has gone to a circus, He's crying, he's weeping in separation. And what to speak if it is for many years? Many times wars happen and the families get separated. And after many years, the families reunite. And when they reunite, there are tears of love. So this separation is basically on the body platform. But the real separation is actually of the soul with the Supreme Soul. Mamayavamsho Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The soul is eternally related to Krishna. And as long as our bhajan doesn't come to this point where we actually start feeling separation from Krishna and cry for Krishna, our bhajan will not be real bhajan. So this is a beautiful lesson we should learn from this pastime. Now, Rūpa Goswami described these highest states of separation in his works. What the separation Mahaprabhu felt in Gambhira. These states is what Rūpa Goswami expressed in his works. Rūpa Goswami composed verses of Viraha in Ter Kadam. The leaves and the creepers would wither up and the ground would dry and crack. This was the kind of effect it was having on the surroundings in Ter Kadam. And whenever, on the other hand, he would write about the meeting of Radha and Krishna, the trees and creepers would become green, vibrant, and full of flowers and fruits. Once Sanatana Goswami visited Rūpa Goswami at Ter Kadam, and he asked, the previous day I had come and everything was dry and withered here, and today I see everything is green and vibrant, full of flowers and fruits. How is this? So Rūpa Goswami said that yesterday I was feeling the vira of the gopis when Krishna left. And today I am seeing the scene of Radha and Krishna meeting. So that is why everything has become lush and green. So Ter Kadam is a beautiful spot, which is also the Bhajan Sali of Rūpa Goswami. And this is at this place Rūpa Goswami was experiencing these summits of separation in Vira and Sambhog. So Rūpa Goswami resided in Vrindavan and he used to compose books describing the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And whatever Rūpa Goswami is to write, Jiva Goswami is to edit it, and Raghunath Das Goswami is to read it. So when Raghunath Das Goswami used to read books like Madhav, where there is feelings of separation of the gopis when Krishna left. So Raghunath Das Goswami used to feel these separations so deep that day and night he used to be continuously absorbed in reading the works of Rūpa Goswami and feeling these pangs of separation. And he would not eat, he would not sleep. And whenever he used to read compositions of the meeting of Radha and Krishna, that would give happiness and bliss. Especially Raghunath Das Goswami was so much absorbed in the separation of Krishna and the gopis, reading Rūpa Goswami's work, that sometimes he would even forget to sleep. We know that he used to just drink a handful of buttermilk, that too once in 3 days. And reading some of the works of Rūpa Goswami like Dana Keli Komudi, which experience which give the humorous pastimes of the Krishna with the gopis, Raghunath Das Goswami used to spend his happy days. His separation might look like material lamentation and his happiness might look like material happiness, but both his separation, Raghunath Das Goswami's feelings of separation and his happiness were both on a transcendental platform. Once Uddhav was in the palace of Krishna and Uddhav saw it was late in the evening that there was downpour. Water was flowing from the top of the palace. And he checked out in the night, in the evening, there was no cloud, there was no rain. So where is this, water coming from? And he went on top and he saw that Krishna was weeping in separation, remembering the gopis. Krishna never revealed his innermost feelings when he was in Dwarka. Although he was with Vasudev, Devaki, and all the queens, his innermost feelings of separation from the gopis, he never revealed. When Uddhav saw this scene of Krishna weeping tears of separation, which was flowing like rainwater, he was wonderstruck. And then it is that time that Krishna summoned Uddhav to visit Vrindavan. Rūpa Goswami was with Srimati Radharani when Uddhav visited Uddhav Khyari. In fact, Uddhav Khyari, this is the place, this picture you can see is Uddhav Khyari. You can see here Uddhav meeting the gopis at Uddhav Khyari. So when Krishna left Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani was piteously crying in separation from Krishna. And Rūpa Goswami as Rupa Manjari was present there, and he was serving Srimati Radharani there in her feelings of separation. In fact, Srimati Radharani could not even write. She wanted to write a letter, but she could not even write Krishna. Whole night she was struggling to write just Krishna. And that letter was just smudged with ink and nothing else. And these feelings of separation of Srimati Radharani, Rupa Goswami was witnessing as Rupa Manjari. When Lalita Saki came there, she summoned a parrot. She said, take this letter and go and deliver it to Krishna in Mathura in the palace. And she warned the parrot, don't even breathe the air of Mathura. It is poisonous. Just take one breath here, drop the letter and come back and take your next breath. Don't even dare to look at Krishna. Don't be captivated by his charm. And don't even land on the roof. Just drop the letter and immediately come back. And this was the instruction. Don't even touch anything in Mathura. It is a very evil and a dangerous place. So these events, the highest summit of separation, what Srimati Radharani was feeling in Krishna, which is called as Divya Unmad. These experiences, Rupa Goswami was able to witness, and in these states, he was serving Srimati Radharani there. And this is what Rupa Goswami has described actually in his works also. In fact, we cannot fathom, how Rupa Goswami has described these in his verses or compositions. By doing sadhana bhakti, kriti sadhyat bhavit sadhya, sa sadhana vidha, nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatam vidhi sadhyata. When that nitya siddha Krishna prem which is there, kabhu sadhana, shravanadi shuddha chitta, korayode, when that happens, only at that point when we relook again and study the Goswami literatures, then we can really experience what Rupa Goswami is mentioning. So the mood of Vrindavan, the mood of the gopis' worship of Krishna is what Rupa Goswami composed in his works. So these are some glimpses of Rupa Goswami's summit of separation, what he was feeling. There is a very interesting incident of the simile of the braid. Braid means the hairs or the tress, what is called. We will take the questions later on. I'll just finish the narration. Once Sanatana Goswami came to meet Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami was that time writing the pastimes especially the swing pastimes of Radha and Krishna. He was explaining how the Sakis and the Manjaris would make wonderful arrangement for Srimati Radharani to sit along with Krishna and have the swing pastimes. Srimati Radharani would be very afraid of these internal mood, power. Swami was in his compositions. In fact, there is a place in Radha Kund next to the Radha Gopinath Mandir where the Nityananda Baitak is there. Rūpa Goswami was once sitting in meditation, and suddenly in his divine vision, he saw the tamarind tree where there was a swing, and all the gopis and the manjaris requested Radharani to, Krishna is calling to sit along with him to be on the swing. Srimati Radharani said, no, I get scared. The swing was very high. So she was a little hesitating. So all the gopis encouraged, no, we will slowly swing it. So with a lot of haste, Srimati Radharani sat along with Krishna, and the gopis were slowly swinging the swing. And then suddenly Krishna with his leg started swinging the swing faster and went faster. Srimati Radharani got frightened and she held clasped to Krishna. This is what Krishna wanted also. Suddenly Krishna started swinging so fastly that the whole swing went on a somersault. And all the gopis were laughing and enjoying, and Srimati Radharani was really frightened. So suddenly Rūpa Goswami saw this scene, and the scene disappeared, and the swing was there hanging, and the tree, the tamarind tree where the swing went somersault, there were markings on the tamarind tree, and this place is still there. Of course, the tamarind tree has disappeared over a few years back, even 50 years back. You could see the tamarind tree, you could see the marks of the ropes on the tamarind tree. That's what the locals told me, and that's what is also mentioned by Rajshekhar Das Brahmachari in his book on Radha Kund. So I recently visited, plus I did not see any tamarind tree. I could only see the Nityanand Baitak and the Radha Gopinath Mandir. So these pastimes, what Rūpa Goswami was internally seeing in his meditation, had composed, and he had written them. And Sanatana Goswami was going through these narrations. And suddenly when he went through one of the shlokas, this is the shloka. Navagorachana Gauri Pravarnindi Varam Varam Manistavaka Vidoti Veni Telangana Panam. So in his poetic composition, he compared Srimati Radharani's hair to a black snake rising from the waist up till the head in the form of a hood. So this was the verse. Oh Vrindavaneshwari, I offer my respects to you. Because your complexion is like newly molten gold, Gauri, you are known as Gaurangi. Nava Gaura Charana Gauri. Your dress is beautiful like that of a blue lotus. Pravendra Varam Varam. Your long braid of hair, Mistavaka Vidnutaveni, resembles a black serpent decorated with jewels. Velangana Fanam. So when Sanatana Goswami read, Srimati Radharani is so soft and sweet, why have you said that her hair is compared to a black snake? This analogy is not appropriate. So Rūpa Goswami said, oh dear brother, so please correct it, and whatever you feel appropriate, you can write a similar analogy. Sanatana Goswami said, yes, I will do it tomorrow. Sanatana Goswami left from Radha Kund, and he was going to his bhajan kutir. And suddenly at Radha Kund, he saw beautiful young girls were on the swing, and the other girls were swinging, and they were nicely having the swing pastimes. And suddenly Rupa Goswami remembered, oh, these were the pastimes I just now read in Rupa Goswami's work. And suddenly what Sanatana Goswami saw was a snake, a huge snake from the top of the tree about to, attack these girls. Suddenly Sanatana Goswami shouted, Kishoris, be careful, there is a snake. You all girls are in danger. All the girls just looked at Sanatana Goswami and laughed, and the scene disappeared. Suddenly Sanatana Goswami understood, oh, this was the darshan of Srimati Radharani and the gopis. And whatever Rupa Goswami had mentioned in the poetic composition, oh, it was true. He understood that. And today I myself have witnessed this. So Rupa Goswami's composition, especially his poetic compositions where he uses different metaphors, Alankar, it is called Alankar Shastra, were not some mundane Shastras which were composed by mundane poets. Actually, in his, this is called as Spurti. Spurti means in his heart, he was actually having darshan of these Leelas and he was composing. So this was the glory of Rupa Goswami's compositions, poetic compositions. We have to somehow access these poetic compositions, especially Stavamala, Lalita Madhav, Vidak Madhav, and for that you need Sanskrit knowledge. At least we should hear from devotees who can narrate these poems. There are few devotees in ISKCON who are, who are good in these kind of narrations, and we should, as and when get opportunity, hear these wonderful narrations. They, give sometimes. Especially many sannyasis also recite the wonderful pastimes of 10th canto and very beautifully describe the poetic metaphors which are comparing. Srila Prabhupada himself wrote a book where all these poetic metaphors are given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't recollect the name of the book, which is published by BBT. So like that, we should relish these poetic compositions. There is a very important also pastime with respect to Jiva Goswami called as Jivadaya. So Jiva Goswami, as a young man, he left from Navdeep in order to study, and he first traveled to Navdeep, where he met Nityananda Mahaprabhu, where he took him on the darshan of the Navdeep Mandal Parikrama. And by the blessings of Nityananda Mahaprabhu, he first went to Varanasi and studied under Madhusudan Vachaspati. And later on, he proceeded to Vrindavan by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. And there, under Jiva Goswami, under Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami served menially. In fact, he would every day collect leaves, dry them, and clean them so that Rupa Goswami would compose his verses. And later, he was editor of Rupa. So not only is to being a great scholar, Jiva Goswami was one of the greatest scholars known in this world. But he used to do all these menial services. And members from various sampradayas used to visit Rupa Goswami in Vrindavan, have his darshan, and they used to have philosophical discussions and clarify their philosophical doubts. Once such sampradaya acharya came to visit Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami was composing a verse. And he asked, which verse you are composing? That time he was working on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Rupa Goswami showed him this verse, this famous verse. Bhukti mukti spruha yavat pishachi ridi vartate tavat bhakti sukhasyatra katam abhido bhavet. How can happiness of bhakti, katam tavat bhakti sukhasya, arise in the heart, ridi abhyude bhavet, when the witch of desire for enjoyment and liberation. Bhukti mukti spruha. Spruha means desire. Pisachi. And this desire for bhukti and mukti, Rupa Goswami compares to a pisachi, a witch. Remains there. Atra vartate. So when this Acharya read this verse, he was disturbed, and he said, how can you compare? How can you give the analogy of a desire for bhukti and mukti as a witch, pishachi? Oh, it is not appropriate. So Rupa Goswami, being very humble, he accepted, and he said, whatever you say is right. But Jiva Goswami could not tolerate it. He was very upset. So disciple should never tolerate a slight offense to his spiritual master. And in fact, Rupa Goswami explains that in his limb of bhakti. And in the 19th limb, he says, Bhakti Krishna Bhakta Guru Ninda Sahana Tyag. Never tolerate blasphemy of Krishna or his devotees. So Jiva Goswami, in order to correct this Acharya, he went to the Yamuna and started glorifying Yamuna in very eloquent verses. And he started glorifying of Rupa Goswami also. This Vaishnava Acharya was very much attracted hearing this beautiful composition of Jiva Goswami. So he came near Jiva Goswami and asked, "Oh, who are you?" So Jiva Goswami in Sanskrit replied, "Oh, you're asking me? Who am I? Are you asking about my material identification, or are you asking me about my identification with soul?" So Jiva Goswami suddenly astonished this Vaishnava by speaking in Sanskrit and glorifying like this. And then Jiva Goswami started clarifying Rupa Goswami's composition. And he said, Bhakti is independent. Bhakti Devi will appear in a person's heart according to her independent desire. She is always far away from the heart which has the desire for bhakti and mukti. The material enjoying tendency can never be a heart suitable for Bhakti Devi to appear. And bhakti is the tendency to serve the heart. Bhakti and mukti, which is sense gratification, are all based on the tendency to enjoy separately from Krishna. Atmendriya priti vancha taraboli kam. Krishnendriya priti cha dhare premanam. Bhakti Devi is far, far away from where there is a desire for personal enjoyment. She automatically appears in the heart where there is the service for Krishna manifested. And that is why the desire for bhakti, as long as the witch of desire for bhakti and mukti is there, bhakti will not appear. As long as a prostitute is there in the house, a chaste lady won't enter that house. A chaste wife will not enter that house. In the same way, the spiritual tendency will not appear in the heart where there is the enjoying tendency. And that is why bhakti and mukti is compared to a pishachi or a witch. When this Vaishnava Acharya heard this explanation, he was wonderstruck. Immediately he went to Rupa Goswami, offered his prostrated obeisances, and he glorified, "Oh, Jiva Goswami, your disciple has dispelled my doubts." Rupa Goswami is internally satisfied, but externally he rejected Jiva Goswami. And he said, "You are not able to follow Mahaprabhu's instruction. Mahaprabhu has said, Tunadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Savishna, Amanina Manadena." Leave. You have no right to stay in Vrindavan. Leave Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami was heartbroken. He did not leave Vrindavan, but he went to the boundary of Vrindavan and made his place actually a cave. This place is called as Bygone. And in this place, Rupa Goswami stayed in that cave, and day and night he was weeping in separation from Rupa Goswami, and he was only uttering Ha Rupa, Ha Sanatana. And Sanatana Goswami once visited Rupa Goswami and asked, "Where is Jiva Goswami? A lot of work has to be done." Rupa Goswami just replied, "I don't know. Maybe he's suffering the results of his past karma." Sanatana Goswami was wonderstruck. And he knew that Jiva Goswami will not leave Vrindavan. So Sanatana Goswami was in search of Jiva Goswami. And when he came to this village Bygone, the Villagers said, "Oh, we know you as Chota Baba, Bada Baba. Chota Baba is Rupa Goswami, Bada Baba is Sanatana Goswami. But there is another big Baba here. Day and night he's absorbed in bhajan and he's only weeping in separation. We have never seen such a wonderful sadhu." So immediately, uh, Sanatana Goswami understood it was Jiva Goswami. So he went, he met him there, and then he got him to Rupa Goswami and he said, "Oh Rupa," Sanatan said, "Oh Rupa, you are showing jivas to, you are showing compassion to all jivas. Please show compassion to this jiva." Rupa Goswami was also feeling separation from Krishna, from Jiva Goswami. He immediately embraced him and completely wetted him with tears of love. And this incident came to be known to Vallabha Acharya, Vallabha Bhatta, who was residing in Mathura. Immediately, he sent the king's physician and revived Jiva Goswami's health. And here is a very important principle we should understand, that eternal love and affection of the soul, or between even two souls who are in love with Krishna, is never broken. And when there are times of difficulties, when there are crises in spiritual life, this bond becomes thicker and deeper. And there are different moods when there are crises, anger, there is, lamentation, there is so many different moods come, these material moods. But these are not eternal moods, but the eternal moods are the moods of pure love and affection of the soul which has for the Supreme Soul. This never gets broken. In fact, it becomes stronger because there is no selfishness. So this is a very famous pastime of Jivadaya, which Rupa Goswami showed. One of the most important incidents in the life of Rupa Goswami is the manifestation of Govinda Dev. Krishna sent Uddhav to manifest the glories of Vrindavan, but he could not do completely. Later, Sukdev Goswami spoke to the sadhus about the glories of Vrindavan. Still, the full glories and truths of Vrindavan may not manifested. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had hope on Rupa Goswami. How could the glories of Vrindavan be manifested? How it would appear to others? How would others understand the glories of Vrindavan? How could others experience these glories? And how could they be engaged in the blissful service of Radha and Krishna? This was the innermost desire of Mahaprabhu. And Rupa Goswami fulfilled this innermost desire by manifesting his Ishtadev in the form of Radha Govind. Radha Govind, or the Govind Dev deity, is the deity which manifests to the Sakas and especially to the Gopis. Krishna in Divya Vrindavan is Govinda Dev. And by having darshan of this Govinda Dev, all jivas can become free from all material and worldly attraction. So that is why through the medium of Rupa Goswami, Govind Dev manifested. There is a beautiful verse. Divya Vrindaranya Kalpatrumat Shrimat Ratnagar Simhasanasto Shrimat Radha Shila Govinda Devo Rishtalevi Sevyamano Smarami. In the temple of jewels in Vrindavan under the desire tree, Shri Radha Govind, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. So how the gopis, what is the deity manifest to them? Radha Govind Dev. And these gopis serve this Radha Govind Dev. And service is what Mahaprabhu desired to give to the jivas. And that is why the Govinda Dev, Ishtadev of Rupa Goswami was manifested. How this happened? Rupa Goswami used to chant his Gopal mantra and the Kama Gayatri mantra, And every day he used to go to the Vrindavan Parikrama. And in Vrindavan, one afternoon he observed that the cow left her herd and on the hill it went and stayed there for a long time. And from the udders, the milk was pouring down. And many times, Rupa Goswami observed the same incident. And Rupa Goswami went to that hill and he prayed there. Oh Deva, you are hiding here. Please give your darshan. And immediately the deities appeared from the soil. So in this way, the Govinda Dev appeared to Srila Rupa Goswami. And by having this darshan of Govinda Dev, the most intimate service what the gopis perform to Shri Shri Radha Govinda Dev, as it is mentioned in this verse, even the jivas can attain. And by having this darshan, it is mentioned, Sei murti nayana here, keho nahi ghar phire, samsari grihara je, gohoya sarvanash. Those who see that enchanting form of Krishna, Sei murti nayana here, never return to their home and society. Oho naha ghara phire, they will not go back to their home. Samsara grihara je goye, Oye Sarvanash, their material life is completely destroyed. So this is the glory of having darshan of Govinda. Tribhanga Bhangima Rūpa, Vamsi Dhara Aparupa, Rasamaya Nidhi, Unastali. Bedecked with garlands of forest flowers, Krishna expertly engages in amorous enjoyment in Vrindavan. Tribhanga Bhangira Rūpa, Vamsi Dhara Aparupa. Standing in his form of three curves and holding his flute, he thus displays unprecedented beauty. He is the ocean of rasa and the reservoir of all good qualities. Rasamaya Nidhi, he is the Rasamaya Nidhi and Guna Shavi, he is the ocean of good qualities. So this is the glory of having the darshan of Radha Govinda Dev. And Rupa Goswami composed many verses in glorification of Govinda Dev. In Stavamala, he wrote Govinda Viruddhavali, and he taught the method of serving this Govinda Dev. There's a beautiful pastime that once a Mayavad sannyasi came before the Govinda Dev temple and started singing kirtans. He started singing kirtans and started glorifying Rupa Goswami. All the assembled devotees started feeling unprecedented pleasure hearing this wonderful kirtan. And immediately, Govinda Dev was so pleased that Govinda Dev reciprocated and a garland fell. And immediately the pujari took and gave it to this Mayavadi sannyasi. The devotees thought, why did Govinda Dev give the garland to this Mayavadi? Govinda Dev answered their heart's inquiry. Those who glorify my dearmost bhaktas are most dear to me. I have appeared again in Vrindavan only for Rupa. So Srila Govinda Dev glorified Rupa Goswami in this way, by giving mercy to a Mayavadi who simply glorified Rupa Goswami. So this is also a very interesting pastime with respect to Rupa Goswami. We have ended our time now. I don't want to cross the time. There are two more small pastimes which are very, very important, which we need to narrate. So we will take up this in the next class, and then we will begin with the actual Chaitanya Charitamrita verse by verse discussion. There are two more important pastimes. I would like to narrate them, and then we will go into the verse by verse discussion. There further the life and history of Rupa Goswami is there, that we will discuss more in detail. So any questions, any clarifications anyone has can raise their hands, and those who would like to leave are free to do so. We will take up questions for a few minutes. The session has ended now and you're free to leave. There's one question by Parth Sarthi Prabhu. We will take up that. Yes, Parth Sarthi Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Tadapna. Prabhuji, I have two questions. First of all, there was a earlier slide which showed a temple-like structure. When you spoke regarding Rupa Goswami.
Yep, carry.
There were, if you remember, it was a white structure, white
Yes.
home-like structure, like a kutir with two dogs in front.
Yes. Yes. What is your question?
Yeah, where is that? Where is that place? What is the name of that place?
It is Uddhav Khyari. This is Uddhav Khyari.
No, not this slide. This slide.
Yes, this is Uddhav Khyari. This is in Nandagram. This is the place where Uddhava met the gopis for first time. And the gopis expressed their feelings of separation to Uddhav. And here Uddhav saw the love what the gopis possess for Krishna, especially Srimati Radharani. The Brahmara Gita is there, or song of madness, divine madness. Uddhav saw this, and Uddhav understood the glory of the Braj Devis. So this place is called as Uddhav Khyari. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Secondly, never tolerate Krishna and his devotees. I mean, never tolerate blasphemy against Krishna and his devotees. So, from where is this taken?
This is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, one of the limbs of bhakti is given by Rupa Goswami. It is the 19th limb. In the 19th limb, it is mentioned that one should not tolerate offense of Krishna or his devotees.
Prabhuji, when Rupa Goswami humbly accepted correction from that Vaishnava Acharya, then Jiva Goswami could not tolerate it. And he could not tolerate it because one should never tolerate blasphemy against Krishna and his devotees. So from which reference did Jiva Goswami believe that he needs to correct that Vaishnava Acharya and prove that you mentioned and I missed it?
I mentioned it that, it is, if somebody, corrects us or we are, we have been criticized or we have been ridiculed, we have to tolerate it. So Rupa Goswami tolerated that of the Acharya. He was being humble, he tolerated it. But on the part of the disciple's duty is he should be ready to give his life for his Gurudev, and he should be able to instill faith in his Gurudev in any skeptic. So that skepticism, of using the word pisachi in that either Vaishnava Sampradaya, it was a duty of the disciple to dispel that doubt. So Jiva Goswami, as a disciple's duty, he did that duty. And as a duty of a spiritual master, as Rupa Goswami, he had to be humble and tolerant. He tolerated it. Like a simple example is given. Trunadapi Sunichena means, what this verse means, that when we are criticized or we are blasphemed, we should tolerate it. But when other devotees are criticized or blasphemed, we should not tolerate that. We should immediately act like fire. So similarly, Jiva Goswami, in a humble way, to establish his faith in Gurudev and to remove any doubt, he did his duty, and both were true in their duties. But there was a deeper meaning to this pastime, because that separation, Rupa Goswami purposefully punished Jiva Goswami, and by that punishment, Jiva Goswami felt deeper separation from Rupa Goswami. And Jiva Goswami, when they united back, their relation became deeper, the bond became more deeper. And Rupa Goswami engaged Jiva Goswami in more deeper service. In fact, he carved with his own hands a deity, and that deity he gave as a service to Jiva Goswami, and that deity is Radha Damodar, where Srila Prabhupada stayed. So the relation, that's why I mentioned eternal love and affection are never broken. They become more deeper and stronger when there are difficult crises. I hope it is clear.
Thank you.
Dr. Archana Mataji has a question. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
You went into mute. I don't know why. Yes, Mataji. Yes, I have unmuted you.
Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. Please tell me.
Yeah, in one of the slide you have mentioned that desire for liberation is also labeled as a wish. That is
Yes.
bhukti, mukti and spruha. So I could understand desire for enjoyment. We can definitely label as a wish or a pishachi vritti. But how come the desire for liberation is also labeled as a wish?
Oh, for this you'll have to study it. You'll have to, I'll have to mute them because there's just. For this, you'll have to study quite in detail the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In essence, bhakti is enjoyment at the bodily platform. Mukti means desire for liberation, to merge in the impersonal Brahman. This is mukti, and it is like a child who comes out of the womb from the mother, and he suffers pains of material existence, and he tells the mother, "Oh, this material world is a place of suffering. Why did I come out? Why did you get me out of your womb? So please take me back." So the child is requesting the mother to take him back in the womb. So no mother would do that. So similarly, trying to merge in the impersonal Brahman, especially Sayuj. Sayuj is merging into the Lord's body. This is actually, it is considered heinous. In fact, it is considered spiritual suicide. So that's why there are liberations. There are different kinds of liberations. Krishna is called as Mukti Pade. All liberations lest at his lotus feet. That's why it's called as Mukunda. So there is Sarupya, Salokya, Samipya, Shashti, and Sayujya. Sayuj is rejected by the devotees. But the other four is Sarupi. Sarupi is having the same form as the Lord. Like Uddhav had the similar form of the Lord. That's why when Uddhav first came to Vrindavan, the gopis, oh, Krishna has come back, they thought, because Uddhav was very similar to look like Krishna. All the bodily features were similar also. Sarupya, this is. Salokya means residing in the same planet as the Lord. And Samipya means being very near to the Lord. And Shashti means having the same opulence as the Lord. So although these four opulences are not against devotional service, but Rūpa Goswami's definition of devotional service is, Anya Abhilashata Shunyam. That is why in Kapil Śikṣā it is mentioned, Diyamanam na grinanti vina mat sevanam jana. Even if these are offered, these four liberations which are favorable for devotee, they are offered, the devotee doesn't accept it. So even in Mukti, what to speak of liberation and merging in the Lord's bodies, higher levels of Mukti which are favorable to devotion also are rejected by the devotees. And that is pure devotion. And there are again further gradations in liberation also, which we cannot go now in that discussion, because it is a long discussion in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu when this series of verses are discussed. But in essence, liberation is rejected by the devotees. It is compared to spiritual suicide. And liberation is becoming one with God. It is the highest kind of sense gratification. So that is why that is also compared to a pishachi. Any other questions, clarifications? Yes, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandapana. Prabhuji, I just wanted to know how this Khat Goswamis are related with each other.
How they are related with each other means?
Means, I mean, like Jiva Goswami is a disciple of Rūpa Goswami. So and how they are exchanging their activities in Vrindavan.
Oh, in that sense.
Yeah.
The 6 Goswamis are actually the disciples of direct Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in one sense. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly did not give initiation, but that is not recommended and that is not expected. But the initiation procedure has to be gone through. There is no mention that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did the actual initiation ceremony, but they are direct disciples of the 6 Goswamis are direct disciples of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, among the 6 Goswamis, the relationship was very deep. Rūpa Goswami considered his spiritual master, his elder brother, as Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami, on the other hand, also considered Rūpa Goswami as a spiritual master, although Rūpa Goswami is his younger brother. And Jiva Goswami was under Rūpa Goswami in one sense. He was under Rūpa Goswami, and because he was editing Rūpa Goswami's work, so he considered him as his Śikṣā Guru. So like that, they had a very intimate relationship. And the 6 Goswamis used to regularly assemble together and discuss Hari Katha together. So this is how the Goswamis spend their time. They used to write compositions, they used to meet each other, discuss about these compositions, they used to all together and used to discuss Krishna Katha. So like that, they had a very intimate relationship. And all the 6 Goswamis except Rūpa Goswami as the leader, because Rūpa Goswami is the Rasik Acharya, who times of Krishna, and everyone among the 6 Goswamis is under Rūpa Goswami. We are Rupanugas, and all the Vaishnava Acharyas have accepted this. Sorry, the line got cut. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada. So we are Rupanugas in that sense. So to give you a little deeper understanding, Radha and Krishna, are served. Radha and Krishna are served by the Ashtasakis. And among Ashtasakis, there is Lalita Saki, who is the group leader. And under her is Rūpa Manjari. And Rūpa Manjari is the leader, who is Rūpa Goswami. And this line of service is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give. So those who connect, to this Guru Shishya Parampara, Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, they will be able to access the service under the leadership of Rūpa Goswami, through Rūpa Goswami Lalita Saki, and they can serve Radha and Krishna. So this is how Mahaprabhu has come. So that is why we accept Rūpa Goswami. Okay. Partha, yes, Prabhuji. Last question. I have to unmute you. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, how did Amar and Santosh get the names Rupa and Sanatana if they didn't get initiation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
They didn't. I did not say that they didn't get initiation. Mahaprabhu initiated. Now you are Rupa and Sanatana. He said, now I accept you as my servants. The Ramkili pastime, it will happen when we read. I just mentioned that, it's that the physical whole initiation ceremony did not happen like that. In fact, Mahaprabhu, when he went to South India also, when he went to South India, just by having his darshan, whoever had his darshan, they attained prema bhakti and they went back to Godhead. So Mahaprabhu did not initiate them in one sense. So initiation, we have a very vague understanding. The moment you come in touch with a spiritual master and hear about devotion and faith and devotion awakens, that is also kind of initiation. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada heard from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and at heart he accepted him as a spiritual master. And he said, today I'm defeated and I'm happy, I'm glad. So at heart he accepted him as the spiritual master. So that is initiation. Initiation means Divya Gyan. Moment you get this transcendental knowledge, your spiritual life begins. That is initiation. Initiation into the process. Then there is the first initiation and the second initiation. All are part of initiation process. Sanatana Goswami defines initiation as Divyam Jnanam Tadati Kuryat. When you get transcendental knowledge, when coming in touch with the bona fide spiritual master, that is the initiation process. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
We will stop here, and next week we will begin the verse by verse discussion. There are two more small narrations about Rūpa Goswami, and the narrations will further continue when we discuss the verse by verse discussion. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Rūpa Goswami Pad ki Jai. Hare Krishna.